Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Improvement in Food Resources. So in the earlier session, I was discussing with you that how the production of the crop can be increased. In short, we were discussing the management of the crop production, and that is done in three ways. First is by managing the nutrient management or fulfilling the nutrient requirement of the crop, and then second is by improving the irrigation facilities, and third is by the crop protection management, right? And in the earlier session we were simply discussing about the nutrient management. If the extra nutrients is to be provided to the grain crop, then how it can be done? Either by providing the manures, right, or by the fertilizers. So in the earlier session this manure part was complete. So now let me explain you that how the fertilizers can affect the growth of the crops. Let us see that what are these fertilizers and how they are, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of the use of the fertilizers. So these fertilizers, they are defined as the commercially prepared chemical compounds which are used as the plant nutrients, right, or the nutrients so as to promote the plant growth. These nutrients alternatively even they are provided by the manures. Manures, what are they? They are the organic compounds which are prepared by the decomposition of the plant and animal waste. And of course they are of different types as we have discussed earlier. So here these fertilizers, they are actually prepared in the industries, and of course they are the good examples of the synthetic chemical compounds. And of course why they are produced or how they are affecting the plant growth, it is of course by ensuring the good vegetative growth. Now what is this vegetative growth? Vegetative is the part of the body which is actually constituting the body structure. They are also known as the somatic cells, right? So these vegetative parts, they include leaves, branches and flowers, and of course the other parts like the roots or the stems and so on. So now you can imagine that if these particular parts are growing well enough, then definitely the plants which are growing there, they will be healthy. If the growth is good, the plants are going to be good enough, isn't it? And that is what the aim behind the use of the fertilizers. Growth is possible only when the nutrients are provided. And what are these nutrients for the plants? These plants, they require different types of nutrients which are supplied by the different medium, right? And what these medium could be? Like air, water and soil. So all these mediums, of course they are providing the nutrient in the natural way, but depending upon the type of plants and the concentration of a particular nutrient required, right? It is not necessary that nature is able to provide all those requirements in the required amount at the right time, and therefore these extra nutrients are added, isn't it? So these fertilizers, they are used for the same purpose. It is an artificial means so as to increase the nutrient concentration in the soil so that plants can grow well enough. So these fertilizers which are prepared in the industries, they can be either organic or they can be inorganic. So what is this organic? Organic, that means it is composed of the organic compounds or the organic matter. And which type of compound is known as the organic compound? The one which is having the carbon, hydrogen and oxygen as a compulsory part in it. And further, the extra groups are present which can provide the nutrition to the plants. Inorganic, it is simply made up of the inorganic chemicals. Fine. So this is how these fertilizers, they can be organic or the inorganic. Now further, these fertilizers, although they are organic or inorganic, but specifically which component is present in it or which type of nutrient is it going to provide to the plants, on that basis these fertilizers are of different types. That means see, they can be like nitrogenous. Nitrogenous fertilizers are those which are providing nitrogen to the growing plants. Nitrogen is one of the important nutrient which is required for the growth of the plants and is provided by the soil. The plants absorb it from the soil. But this nitrogen, it cannot be obtained in its nascent form or in its elementary form, right? N2, which is present in our atmosphere, it cannot be used in the same form by the plants. These nitrogen, they have to be converted into the inorganic compounds so that the plants can absorb it, right? So of course for this part the fertilizers are added, and the example of such fertilizer is the ammonium sulfate. It is one of the example. So this ammonium part, it is added to the soil, right? And then it is converted into the other forms like nitrates or nitrites, and accordingly, and then it is utilized by the plants. Then is the phosphatic fertilizers, and these phosphatic fertilizers, as the name is suggesting, is providing the phosphorus in extra quantity or in the specifically to the growing plants. And one of the example of such fertilizer is the single superphosphate. Then comes the potassic. Potassic, the name suggesting, it provides potassium for the growth of the plants, and the example is the potassium chloride. Then comes the complex fertilizers. Usually these complex fertilizers are of mixed type. They are usually organic also. Inorganic can be there, but they are providing the multiple type of nutrients to the plants. And since I'm saying it is organic, so one of the example is the urea. Urea is an example of complex organic fertilizer, and it is rich in nitrogen content. It provides nitrogen to the growing plants. Fine. So these are just some of the examples of different types of fertilizers, and they are fulfilling the specific requirement of the plants. From this brief discussion, I hope one thing should be very clear to your mind. That is that these fertilizers, they are providing the specific component, right? Or they're providing the specific nutrient to the growth of the plant. And that is what the specialty of these particular fertilizers. In the case of manure, it is not specifically that which content is provided. It is of mixed type. It is an organic compound or it is organic matter which is having the inorganic material also in its composition. So those inorganic components, what are they over there? It is not specific. It is in general whatever is which has been decomposed by the different organisms, whether it is worms or bacteria. It depends upon that particular formation. Fine. So this is the basic difference between the fertilizers and the manures. Now the point is that how these fertilizers are exposed to the plants, right? How they are applied to the for the growth of the plants, to the soil or to the plants or whatever. So let me give you this brief idea also. So these fertilizers, either they are added directly to the soil, or they are provided to them by the foliar feeding. That means by the spraying over the leaves. Okay. What happens here? See, if it is added to the soil, the plants, they are able to absorb them through the roots, right? Roots, they are performing this absorption process. So since the material or these fertilizers or the nutrients are present in the soil, they will be absorbed by the plant roots. And then of course through the different types of tissues, through different mechanisms, they are supplied to the upper part of the plants, and thus they can promote the growth of the plants. Then comes the foliar feeding. Foliar feeding, that means by spraying it over the leaves. So directly by this method, the these materials, they are uptaken by the leaves. So this is how they are applied to the growing crops. Now a very important point to be considered here is the precautions that should be taken while using the fertilizers. The very first thing is actually in terms of the proper dose. See, the spelling is wrong here. I'm very sorry for this. It is dose, D-O-S-E. So the amount which is added to the soil or which is actually sprayed over the plants, that should be used in a correct concentration, right? Secondly, at the correct time, And further, after it has been added to the soil or it has been used in the fields, then the proper monitoring should be there, that whether these compounds they have been utilized completely by the plants or not. And that is possible by checking the concentration of these elements in the soil. Right. So, why all these things are considered? The reason is that because see, they are having the inorganic components, like they are rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, right, and so on. So these elements, when they are added in the extra quantity in the surrounding fields, right, then they can become the cause behind the pollution. Which pollution? Air pollution, soil pollution, as well as the water pollution. Since these elements, they are if they are high in concentration, they can cause different types of damages. And this is the reason that whatever extra quantity has been added, the aim behind that is the good growth of the plants. So if it is used up by the plants, then it is fine. But if extra dosage is there, if extra quantity is there, it is going to cause harm to the system. And thus the proper dose should be added, whatever is required according to the plants. So after knowing these basic points regarding the fertilizers, let me give you some important points that are related to the advantages and the disadvantages of the fertilizers. And of course, this is one of the important questions that comes in your exams also. Fine. So I will give you some important points. So students, here are the advantages and disadvantages of the fertilizers. So the very first advantage is that the fertilizers, they always ensures the higher yields from the crop field. And this is of course one of the important factor in the high cost farming. You know what is high cost farming? I explained to you in the earlier session sometime. High cost farming is a type of farming in which the huge investments are made, right? So in such type of see, why I'm saying this thing, because of course the fertilizers, they are quite expensive, right? So of course it is a part of the high cost farming only. But over there, if these fertilizers are added, definitely the results are going to be very good. Fine. So these fruitful results are because of the fertilizers. Now it is so because they provide the specific nutrient for the plant growth. See, the crops they are developing, that means the plant growth is taking place. The crop, they can provide us the good product, the product yield can be increased or it can be improved only if the plants are growing well. And for the growth of the plants, the micro and the macronutrients are required. So these nutrients, that which type of crop needs which type of nutrient at what time, all that is to be planned, isn't it? So these nutrients or the fertilizers, they are giving the specific nutrients. Let us say the soil is there and it is lacking a particular type of nutrient and which is essentially required for the growth of the crop. So in that case, what is to be done? The fertilizers can be used over there, um, of course, to increase the yield from the fields. Fine. Next thing is that in this case, the dose applied, it can be determined appropriately. See, in this case, I should say that a planning strategy is working actually here. Uh, for that, a regular checkup of the soil quality is made initially. Then what is the concentration of the different types of components over there, that has to be determined. And since these fertilizers, they are rich in the particular type of nutrient only, so how much concentration is required so as to improve the plant growth, that can be studied in the laboratory level itself. And then according to that, the dose can be designed, because it varies from the from one place to the another, from one field to the another. So accordingly, the process in this process, the dose required, it can be designed. Next thing is that they are required in less quantity. Since they are rich in the specific nutrients, so and they are made up of inorganic compounds usually, and even if they are organic, they are having the particular ratio in which the different components are present. isn't it? So in this case, they are required in the less quantity. And this actually I'm comparing with the manures. Manures, since they are organic compounds and they have the less inorganic compounds, so they are used in the bulk amount. But here, the fertilizers, they are not supposed to be used in bulk amount. They have to be added in the less quantity accordingly whatever is required by the plants. And of course, if you are you think that if you will add the more amount of fertilizers, the productivity will increase much more. Then no, it is never so, because the requirement of the plant is of course limited. Whatever is required, that will be absorbed from the soil, and rest will remain in the soil itself. So in this way, further you need to understand the disadvantages of the fertilizers. Initially I said that the fertilizers, they should be used in a particular dose and at a particular time, right? The timing is also very important. You know what timing is actually considered? It is prior to irrigation, that how much time is required to absorb these nutrients, and for the when this water is to be added to or applied to the fields. That gap between these two things are really very important. Otherwise, what will happen? If this timing is not properly set up here, then what will happen? Then the fertilizers, they will get washed away due to irrigation at the wrong time, or due to the excessive irrigation. Uh, Excessive irrigation, extra water, as well as the correct timing, both these factors are actually affecting the absorption of fertilizers by the plants. So, right amount of water and the right timing of this irrigation, as well as the fertilizers added to the field, all has to be managed. And of course, the another thing is that when the extra fertilizers are added, what will happen? They will remain in the soil, and due to such irrigation problems, or because of this irrigation, those extra fertilizers they are going to wash away, isn't it? And when they get washed away, where they will go? Either they will seep down into the soil definitely, or they are going to add to the water, isn't it? They will add to the water sources. So the excessive use of these fertilizers, it can lead to the water pollution, and there are very well known examples of such type of problems. There are so many cases that that have been studied. So they are the examples that how these fertilizers lead to the water pollution, and of course the soil pollution also. Besides this, the continuous use of fertilizers in a particular area, of course, it can destroy the soil fertility. How? It is because the organic matter in the soil is not replenished naturally. So if that replenishment is not going on sidewise, definitely the real structure of the soil is going to be destroyed, and this will affect the soil fertility also. So the continuous use of same type of fertilizer is again not suggested to the farmers. Next thing is that microorganisms in the soil, they can also get harm because of the fertilizers. If they are not able to tolerate these extra amount of these particular elements, definitely they are going to be damaged. And of course, because of this, the normal flora is going to be destroyed, and the fertility is again going to be affected. So these are some of the points related to the advantages and the disadvantages of the fertilizers. So now, after knowing these basic things related to the fertilizers and the manure, let me show you one small table which will differentiate, or which will compare the basic features of the fertilizers and the manure. So briefly, it has been shown here. See, the manures, they are not the nutrient specific, right? The general composition is there, whatever is digested by the different bacteria or the worms or whatever, different type of organisms. So that decomposition is resulting in the particular type of organic matter which we call as the manure. In the case of fertilizers, since they are synthesized in the factories, right? So they are the nutrient specific, right? They are synthesized according to the requirement, or according to the particular type of nutrient only. Next is that manure is always bulky and voluminous. That means it is always required in bulk amount, and since it is required in more concentration, so it takes more space, right? It occupies more space, and therefore it is quite difficult to transport and use it. Besides that, the fertilizers, they are required in less quantity, so they are not voluminous, right? Next thing is that manures, they usually provide long-term benefit. This is the advantage of the manure, whereas fertilizers, they provides only the short-term benefit. How is it possible? This is because the manures which are added to the soil, they are also helping in maintaining the soil structure, right? Since they are used in bulk amount, they are rich in the organic compounds or the organic matter, so they are helping in maintaining the structure of the soil also. And they can be recycled over there. The organic matter, it provides or it is used as a source of nutrient for by other soil microorganisms also, so it is going to provide the long term effect, which is not so with the fertilizers, right? Fertilizers, they are highly specific. They provide only a particular type of content or the nutrient over there, and thus in the future use, they are also destroying the normal flora, right? Besides this, manures, they give slow results. They are not like immediately the result is obtained if the manure is used, because it is providing the particular source of the organic matter, or a source of particular nutrient, which is used up by the other organisms and is converted into the usable form, right? So the process is quite slow. In the case of fertilizers, it gives the sudden effect. It gives a sudden result, because the specific nutrient in the required form is provided by the fertilizers. Next thing is that manure increases the organic content of the soil, whereas fertilizers is not having such type of effect. Manure, they are prepared in the open spaces or in the fields, right? So the investment is very low. The source from which it is prepared, it is a waste, so there is no or very low investment over there for the preparation. Besides that, the land area or the space which is required, it is not especially designed for the purpose, right? Even it can be made in the open spaces, or by digging some small pits in the fields and all that, right? So it can be prepared quite easily with a very low investment. And if the fertilizers are compared, then they are prepared in the industries. A proper setup is there in which they are chemically synthesized. In the all because of all such reasons, manure is always a cheap source, right? And fertilizers, they need more maintenance, so of course they are more expensive. So by this table, the drawbacks and the advantages both are in front of you. Now, by looking at such type of aspects, each type is having either this advantage as well as the disadvantage. So now what should be done? That is the thing now. Is it? Yeah, I can add one more point here, that manure is eco-friendly, whereas fertilizers, they are one of the important source of pollution. So of course that is another point that should be added here. Now the thing is, by looking at such aspects, that what solution is there that we can use the particular rich source of nutrient in the crop management program or the production management, which is not having any disadvantage and is able to enrich the soil at a very good ratio, at a very good level. So for that, nowadays the special type of fertilizers are used, which are known as the biofertilizers. So I will give you a very brief idea about these biofertilizers. So students, biofertilizers, it is actually a substance. which contains different living microorganisms that are used to enrich the soil with the nutrients. See, basically, you know that soil is having a particular type of, particular different types of bacteria or different living organisms in it, isn't it? Which is a normal flora over there. Now, these organisms, they are growing over there or in the soil, and they are using the different components and converting them into the simple form, or which are used as the nutrients by the plants. This is what happens in the natural way. So such type of thing is actually used up by the scientist and um industrialist, where the particular type of bacteria, just for example I'm saying the bacteria, or I can say the particular type of organism is isolated from the soil, right? And then it is specifically cultured in the laboratories, and then it is reduced in the bulk amount, considering the benefits it is providing to the fields, right? Or considering the rate at which it can convert the these compounds in the soil into the simple these usable forms. So considering such important point, the organisms are isolated, and then they are produced in the industries where they are used as the biofertilizers. I'm sorry, they are prepared as the biofertilizers, and they are further applied to the fields so as to increase the soil fertility. You know which particular organisms are used for this purpose? They are generally the bacteria. See, the bacteria is written here, and I'm very sorry for this mistake. The S is not coming here. Bacteria is a plural form of bacterium. Okay. Anyways, so the examples or the bacteria which is used in these biofertilizers, they are like Azotobacter, Rhizobium, Cyanobacteria, and so on. So these particular, you must have an must be having this idea that they are converting the this nitrogen into the inorganic form, right? Elementary form of nitrogen into the inorganic form in the of this nitrates and the nitrites, isn't it? So looking at this property, the extra all these things are, these bacteria or the organisms are grown in bulk amount, right? And then they are stocked properly, they are stored properly, and then they are supplied to the farmers, where they are added in the where these farmers add the biofertilizers into the soil. And over there, as the bulk amount is present now in the soil, so these biofertilizers, they will act over there, and thus they will help in increasing the soil fertility. So now, since they are not the chemical compounds, they are the natural microorganisms which are increasing the soil fertility. So the problems like pollution and that amount which is used, all those things are minimized here. And of course, they are having good effect in promoting the plant growth also. So both purposes are now served. They are they are eco-friendly, and secondly, they are providing the specific nutrient to the particular type of soil, or the to the crop which is using those elements. So accordingly, these biofertilizers, they are the good solution which are actually against the disadvantages of the manures or the fertilizers. Well, looking at this point, that is the use of biofertilizers, nowadays there is a new aspect, or there is a new technique which is nowadays used in the farming practices, and that is known as the organic farming. So just let us understand what is this organic farming. So this organic farming is actually a type of farming system in which there is the minimum, or there is no use of chemicals. Which chemicals? It can be like the fertilizers which are added to the soil for increasing the fertility, or the pesticides or the herbicides or the weedicides and so on. All these chemicals, they are not used in such type of farming. Rather, they are dependent on the eco-friendly things for the farming practices. For example, the use of biofertilizers, isn't it? Like for pesticides or these neem type of products are used. Neem, margosa plant, the leaves of this margosa, they are used for the protection against various types of pest. So there are similar many more examples, but the main concept is that the use of chemical is essentially minimized in such type of farming. Besides that, they are actually dependent on the crop rotation practices. When the crop rotation is done, it increases the soil fertility. Fine. What is this crop rotation? That we will discuss later on. Besides that, the use of green manure is common. Right. Use of compost or the biological pest control agents, mechanical cultivation, all these practices are followed so as to maintain the soil productivity and the pest control system. Of course, if such type of things are used, definitely there is a limitation for the use of the synthetic fertilizers or the synthetic pesticides, right? Or of course the growth regulators which are used for the plants also. All these chemical things are kept aside and the eco-friendly things are introduced in the farming practices. So such type of farming is actually known as the organic farming. And different products you must have seen in the malls or in the market nowadays, like organic tea or the organic different organic products are there. So basically what are they? They are produced by not using the chemicals. So this is all about these fertilizers and the organic farming. Next, I will introduce the next topic, that is how the this next step can be taken so as to improve the crop production, and that is related to the irrigation. So that I'm going to continue in the next session. So till then, thank you so much. Have a nice day. Goodbye.